Hey everyone, I hope you're doing great. So in this video, we're going to talk about 5 tips that can help us to improve our self-talk. Now, self-talk is that inner voice. You know what I'm talking about. Those thoughts that we hear that keep popping up throughout the day. Now, sometimes our self-talk can really be encouraging and motivate us, but other times it can be negative, which can just completely zap our energy and affect the way we feel about ourselves and our circumstances. Now, although we might not be able to get rid of all of our negative talk completely, we can work towards making most of our internal dialogue to be positive and uplifting. Now, the way we perceive who we are at our core really makes a difference, because if we don't feel we're good enough or that we can trust ourselves, then our internal dialogue can become really negative. The good news is that we can change those patterns by applying some healthy strategies that will help us to improve our inner dialogue. So let's dive in and look at some powerful tips that can help us to do this. So the first tip is to be mindful of your thoughts and catch those negative thoughts. Now, sometimes our mind can go on autopilot for those things that we're used to doing, kind of like brushing our teeth or driving to work. Once we learn something and it becomes a habit, we really don't have to concentrate on it as much because we know how to do it automatically. Now, it's really awesome how smart we are to be able to learn something and then do it without really thinking about it. However, when we are on autopilot, we tend to not be as mindful as to what thoughts are coming up because we're allowing the usual program to dictate what thoughts are there and how we perceive things we are encountering that day. So being that said, if we think about our mind having programs running throughout the day, then it might be helpful for us to be mindful and pay attention to what messages our unconscious is allowing to be told to us. Maybe we have some things programmed into us from our childhood, or perhaps we tried some things in the past that didn't work out, and so something in there is telling us some feedback from those experiences. This is why being mindful really makes a difference. We can concentrate more on what kind of messages are being told to us and determine if they are helping or hindering us. So let's pay attention to our self-talk and identify anything that is negative. The reason for this is that we won't be able to change our negative self-talk without noticing it first. You might even find it helpful to keep a self-talk journal. You could write those thoughts maybe in a small notebook or in the notes area of your phone or even on your computer. And then every time you notice negative self-talk, you can write it down. Then later you can review the notes and maybe discover if maybe some of those thoughts are coming from something in your past. Perhaps it's something that needs to be processed so you can move beyond that thought. If we have something tied to a thought, we may need to process those memories to put closure to them so we're able to move on. Now, the second tip is to stop the negative thought and do some thought replacement. When an unhelpful thought comes up, let's see if we can stop that negative thought. You could snap your fingers, you could visualize maybe a stop sign, or if you're alone, you could just simply say the word stop. Then replace that thought. Now, I do want to mention that it is helpful to use I in some instances, like saying positive affirmations such as I am smart. However, if we use I in the thought replacement, it may seem so personal and it could increase our feelings of shame or anxiety. For example, saying, why am I so stressed? Instead, we could use, why are you feeling so stressed? It's creating that distance you need to regulate emotion and listen almost like we're going back and forth with a friend. Now, another example would be if the thought was, I'm such an idiot, why'd I do that? We could replace that thought with something that's more encouraging and more positive, like, every mistake you make is an opportunity for you to learn and grow. You are doing the best you can right now. Now, the key to changing our self-talk to be more positive is repetition. So let's work on repeating those awesome thought replacements until you find yourself needing to do it less often. Then it will eventually become a habit. Also, let's make sure we're taking small steps here. If you notice quite a bit of negative self-talk, perhaps you could focus on one area of your life at a time that you would like to improve, such as love, health, wellness, or confidence. It can be overwhelming when we are making changes in our lives. So let's take small steps as we are approaching this. And over time, those will turn into some big improvements in our lives. So the third tip is to evaluate the people in your life and their influence. Now, everyone has days they feel negative. However, some people seem to feel that way quite a bit. If you have some people in your life that are consistently negative, you may need to distance yourself from them. The attitudes of those around you will have an effect on the way you feel. You are already working on your self-talk, but having them there as well can make it more challenging because you will need to deflect their negativity as well. Now, I know this can be difficult, especially if it's family or coworkers we have to see daily. So it doesn't mean we have to cut them out of our lives completely, but maybe just minimizing the time we spend talking to them. So the fourth tip is to be grateful. An awesome way to have more positive self-talk is to notice the great things going on in your life. If we are so focused on what we don't have all the time, that can set us up for some negative feelings. Now, that doesn't mean we shouldn't want more things in life, but let's make sure we're excited about the things we already have so we can appreciate what we've already accomplished up until now. Many times we can achieve goals in our lives, but then we forget how far we've actually come. We continue to look to the next goal, but we don't actually sit there for a minute and appreciate all the hard work we've put in and how far we've actually come all of these years. Let's appreciate and love ourselves, our loved ones, all the things we've learned and achieved, and all the other wonderful things in our lives. Maybe you could even do a gratitude journal and write 3 things every day that you're grateful for, or simply wake up each morning and name off the 3 things before you even get out of bed. This would really help us to have an amazing start to our day. So the fifth and final tip is not to compare ourselves to others. If we are finding that we are comparing what we don't have to what others do have, we can easily get ourselves feeling bad about ourselves and our circumstances. We truly don't know what others are going through along their journey. Sometimes things can seem so easy and positive for others when we observe them from the outside, but behind closed doors, we are really not sure of anyone's struggles, and honestly, we don't need to. Please remember, this is your journey and no one else's. We are not on the same journey as others, and we are working only to improve ourselves, not looking at how we need to be like anyone else. So those are the 5 tips to help you improve your self-talk. I hope you found these helpful. Now, if you work on these tips and you're still finding it a bit challenging to move past some of the negative thoughts, it might be a good idea to reach out to someone like a life coach or a therapist. Sometimes we have some trauma we may need to process and heal from before we can work on our self-talk. Now remember, we are with ourselves every day, all day. So let's be encouraging to ourselves. Please remember, you are beautiful, smart, brave, and resilient. Keep reminding yourself of all the wonderful things that are a part of you. Thank you so much for watching. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you on the next video.